well, we don't expect a lot of people on Sunday. People are just chilling, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to just take it slow on Sundays.
So slow.
Okay, let's just give a whisper of a lyric. You know, I'm sorry, I'm stirring.
It probably sounds annoying to people.
It's our show and not yours.
I'll send to Finder.
I don't. Yeah, okay. I don't really send.
No. They might want to join us.
Mysterious friends requests. Oh, I don't. YouTube haven't found it, or you found it? Then it's just not. Then it's just not linking yet. Hey, Urim, welcome.
Hello. It's so much brighter when we have white shirts.
Yeah. the lighting doesn't have to deal with the contrast, but that's, because we're dealing with a webcam setup. There's nothing professional about what we're doing here. Today is a book episode, and then it's always not obvious, but we're wearing our Tintin shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
I think actually. Oh, maybe that was because it was Facebook. Let's see. I'll try the YouTube link.
Yeah, YouTube tends to still work a bit more consistently better for everyone.
So yeah.
I'm like looking back. What have I been reading this month?
To those who have arrived or have just arrived or are peeking and leaving, we'll be starting in a bit. We're just, warming up.
My view count totally off. So we'll just have to rely on whatever you see. So you see
3. And I'm not sure why.
2 other people on Facebook and maybe 1 other person on YouTube. No worries. Today is just, it's a chill Sunday, ladies and gentlemen.
Today we are still trying to connect with people despite the lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, we do this for us, not for you. But we do appreciate the people who do tune in despite everything else. I know
show clip moment.
I know you're all busy thinking about things you could be doing outside instead of here.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we're here. I'm going for a smooth jazz commentary. I don't know. I don't know what smooth jazz is. Okay, we might as well start.
All right. And timer starts now. This is Toby.
The now threw me off. And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
I don't know what Toby's doing. Talk about. This is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us, we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, please like the video, share the link, and comment because we can't see who's watching. We can see that there's like 4.
Yeah, we can see the numbers, but we don't know who you are.
Until you comment.
We appreciate if you say hi.
And the show also tries to strive to be more than just a one-way thing. So we actually respond and answer comments as you send them. So tonight we will be spending 30 minutes, and most likely just 30 minutes, not like our Friday shows that reach 3 hours.
Oh my god.
We will spend 30 minutes talking about the books and other reading material that we've been consuming so far.
Yeah. And this was a suggested topic by Mitch. And to be fair, I think this is one of those things we will probably revisit every month. Same thing with like what we're watching on TV and what games we're playing. So let's talk about what we've been reading. And I'm actually more curious about Toby because Toby's reading habits are strange. So I'm like, what are you diving in? What have you been diving into?
I think we should alternate. We can't like just one list one person. And then
That's
the next list one
true.
person. So one thing I've been reading lately, this is more because we just started again, was the Ryutama rules book. We covered Ryutama in an episode some time back, and it has been a book I have been reading again, not just because we're playing it, but because I had recently discovered there are so many new unofficial but approved supplements that have been released for the game. The publishing company that has released the English version of the game actually is generous enough to allow people to write their own supplements, but they do ask that people submit to them their concepts so they can warn them if they're currently working on a similar book.
And Toby mentioned this, I think, when we did our dive into what Ryutama is as an RPG. But I think that also reflects that because a lot of Toby's reading is actually RPG material, which is always cool. And then I read other things. So I'm going back into my Goodreads. And so September, okay, I have an annual reading goal of reading 365 new titles a year. And I count this based on full novels, full audiobooks. And then when it comes to comic books, I only count them when I have compiled like the trade paperback equivalent of on a story arc. So that way I don't feel like I'm cheating and like tracking individual issues. So admittedly, since the lockdown began, I have been behind on my reading pace.
By behind, he means less than the expected 300
Yeah,
plus
so
books
like
per year.
Goodreads helps you track the goal, and then it tells you if you are behind pace or not. And I don't know, something about lockdown, a lot of months I was super behind. It was stressing me out. September, this month, marks the achievement. I am back on track.
And that's how many
and
books?
gentlemen. A lot. So
you don't want to say the number.
no. So I think
wait, quick greeting to Cherry, who has said hello, Rocky.
Oh, hello.
And on a separate chat, not in the stream, Jasper said hello as well. Andre said hello as well. So yeah, so what book have you been reading?
Okay, admittedly, I caught up mostly because of comic books. Okay. That's been my claim to fame. And then I think so what did I do? A lot of things I covered. I went through the Mark Waid run of Daredevil, which was weird when he went to California and set up practice there because he eventually he has to set up practice there because he gets this sort of disbarred in the state of New York. That wasn't the most amazing thing. I finally read Sex Criminals, which yes, it's more of
Matt Fraction.
It's an adult theme, mature content comic book, but oh my god, it's amazing. It's all these people who have strange superhuman abilities
related to sex
when they orgasm and stuff, or when they have
and
sex.
It uses colored word bubbles.
Yeah.
Which is something uncommon in comic books.
I think the best thing about it was that in the earlier volumes, they did like the different protagonists of focus for the episode introduces what's going on. So you get sort of a fourth wall breaking moment where the character is talking to us outside of the dialogue that's happening. But then it kind of drops later on, and then they just kind of focus on the meta plot, which is okay.
Yeah, so I also recently finished the first volume of Batman Odyssey, which is...
So he's been complaining about this to me all
I complain, but at the same time I'm enjoying it because it's like a train wreck that doesn't make sense.
Oh my god!
But it's just so hilariously fun to read. It's the Neil Adams Batman stories, where he draws him surprisingly in a almost come hither type of way, where he's shirtless with his hairy chest, staring at the reader, talking about what seems to be supposedly his first few trips as Batman, but it doesn't make sense because it has him
We should have prepped images because it's like every issue has this weird panel of Batman like intimately addressing the reader for some reason.
Yes.
And half the time he's shirtless, but his proportions are just so weird. And then little things. Andre says hi and says that maybe Sex Criminal sounds like the comic for him. So yes, I think you would enjoy it. I think you would enjoy it. And Zeki says agree with Odyssey. Weird, especially at the end. Okay. Admittedly, for me, the thing that really pushed me over to help me get back on track for my reading was a bunch of comic books, and I've been catching up on IDW's run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is so much more serious than the old Archie Comics run. But it super works. It generally works. I think there are things that I'm not like super happy about. What weirds me out is this involvement of sort of pantheon deities that are very Japanese inspired, but then I don't know why they're like really interfering in things and now obsessed with the mutants. So it's not as super sciencey as the original Turtles run, where it was all about Dimension X and the other people there, which are still in the story. But yeah, it's a lot of volumes. Oh my gosh!
So there, see, Batman Odyssey. Imagine panels like that.
And there's like every issue has one of these.
Every issue opens with him talking to you in that manner. As to why, I shall have to leave you to find out by reading the comic.
Zeki asking if the TMNT run was Eastman and Laird. It was Eastman, definitely, and helping with the writing, but a different creative team with IDW.
I also recently finished the 3 volumes of the Grant Morrison Batman run, which was an amazing, complicated tale that introduces and eventually wraps up the story of Damian Wayne.
Yes. That I enjoyed that when I read it back in the day.
That storyline also crosses with the, I guess you could say, infamous story arc wherein Batman is sent through the past by Darkseid, and he fights his way back to the present. So I know that weirded out a lot of people because it suddenly didn't feel like a Batman story, but it was a Morrison story, so I still enjoyed that.
Yeah. On the novel front, though, I wasn't like slacking. Okay, so I finally the Peace Talks came out recently for the Dresden Files. I read that. Awesome continuation, and it's super it super connects to the next book, which is Battlefield, but then it hasn't which hasn't come out. I'm waiting. I'm pre-ordered, but that was really awesome. And then I kind of wrapped up also by reading this trilogy of novellas tied around the formation of the Kalehounds in BattleTech. So that was a good piece. That was a birthday gift from Mina. Thank you very much for those books. And I super enjoyed it. It was Michael Stackpole who wrote these books, and Michael A. Stackpole is one of my favorite genre fiction writers in the sense that he contributed a lot to the early BattleTech universe. He started the Star Wars X-Wing books. So this I super appreciate. It's always fun to read Stackpole. I'm glad he went back to write for BattleTech.
So me, it's still mostly comics and role-playing games. So the other one I've been reading is what was it called? I had it earlier in my head. The Secret Societies, which is a 7th C expansion supplement, all about the different societies in the game. John Wick obviously had fun with the book because he literally littered a lot of hidden codes and ciphers to unravel and unlock in the book. There are portions of the book that sound like he's just digressing and talking about all this and that. But then if you realize the way you should read that chapter, you discover that he's actually talking about game mechanics.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting book. It's an interesting approach. I know it won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm happy that came out.
My current novel exploration and trying to keep my reading progress apace. So I'm only like 2 or 3 books ahead of my goal. So I can't slack off and read more complex stuff. So now my novels, I'm reading different Star Trek books, which are always like very light reading for me. And I focus on a particular story arc called Double Helix. So it is a weird, soft crossover event across the different Star Trek show book series, all tied to the same thing, this being a weird medical outbreak of a designer disease. And I did not think this through to read this during a pandemic. I just go, hey, I have the Double Helix books. They're 6. Let's read them. I didn't know what they were about. They're all TNG era, but then sometimes they cross over into other characters, other shows, but as they were in the TNG era, which is the coolest part. Because like the first book was a focus on Beverly Crusher solving it in like season one TNG. The second book was Dr. Pulaski, which is like end of season two, beginning of season 3 TNG. Then and then I lost my page. But then the other books are like focused on Deep Space. The Pulaski book, sorry, was like on Terra Nor. So it was Deep Space Nine during the Cardassian occupation. There's another one where it's Voyager, sort of Voyager crossover, but it involves Chakotay and the like when they're still in the Maquis. So it's quirky. It's quirky. And because it's different authors, not all books are written the same. Many of them just use the medical thing as a background and not as the core story, which is kind of disappointing. I'm struggling through the current one now, which is I think tied to the new. What was it called again? New Trek something era. Anyway, please take over.
So some comments. Jasper's greets us both hi and says we
Hello.
look good. Yes,
Thank you.
We're staying healthy. We're staying happy. Andre adds
the only comic he finished was Injustice, and he doesn't like DC.
I understand. Many find DC to be hard to get into. I think it depends on what you're looking for when you read comics.
Yeah, I'm still a Marvel guy more than anything else. I still read more Marvel. Speaking of Marvel, no, go on.
So I've also been reading Oblivion Song, which is the new Robert Kirkman series. Well, not new, but it was what he did after The Walking Dead, where it involves a modern day city that has parts of it overrun by some sort of alien, weird, other dimensional thing. And the lead character is able to travel between the two and is trying to find his missing brother. But then some people are treating the entire event like, this massive Holocaust tragedy, and they'd rather not reopen the doors. So it's an interesting tale. It's not as tight as The Walking Dead so far in the first few episodes, but I think it's going to build better. I just feel like things are more stretched out in the opening because he, I guess, isn't sure if people will buy in that quickly. Beyond that, I've also been reading the Fantastic Four / Future Foundation.
That's always good. I love that run.
Yeah,
I super love that run.
I wanted to see how it eventually led to God Emperor Doom, which I realized it was those stories that led to it.
Yeah, that's Hickman,
Because Hickman is the type of guy who really wanted to fulfill the title of the world's most fantastic comics or most wonderful comics. And boy, that was a ride. It approached things in such a huge scale that you wished comics were written that way more often. And I know some people didn't like it because things kind of felt very Deus Ex Machina to some extent, but that's how the Fantastic Four works.
Yeah, their science is indistinguishable from magic. So,
yeah.
Speaking of, actually, I just finished reading Fantastic Four / Inhumans, which is actually 2 arcs, which is this weird 4-issue Inhumans arc, and there are so many 4-issue Inhumans books. But this was a struggle. It was a struggle because I was gonna say it's the one where the Kree reassert control over them and turn them into soldiers. But that's the plot of many Inhuman stories.
That's true.
But that was the core of it.
True.
And then after the Fantastic Four part is when they go to Earth and seek asylum. But then there are these half Inhumans that were secretly puppet mastering things, and they didn't want the royal family to be accepted because it may expose them as half Inhumans. It didn't make sense. It was a messy story.
I've also been reading manga again, and I've been diving back and forth between 2 of them. The first is Battle Angel Alita. It's always nice to dive
I still haven't
back
finished that also.
It always has these action-packed scenes that are just, it gets your imagination running. But the second one, which might be very unfamiliar to most of you, is the 5-Star Stories books, which
no idea.
It's a very old manga series that does have massive robots and a lot of characters who look like women or might have been drawn to be women but aren't because they're living in a society where bioengineering is so normal. It has women called Fatimas who are bred and genetically developed to help serve as co-pilots in the massive robots. And it's an interesting story. It's very 60s, 70s if you look at it because bell bottoms is common in the costumes and all that.
In my effort to just rack up
Yeah,
titles.
this should be a
Oh, that's cute.
sample of what it looks like.
Okay. In order to catch up on reading, then I admittedly I feel like a lot of the Marvel Now content during that rebrand relaunch, super easy reads, and then each trade paperback equivalent is about 4 or 5 issues, so
Mhm.
I get to complete them very quickly. I read the Charles Soule, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Soule run on She-Hulk,
Mhm.
which only lasted 12 issues. It was that time when they did a lot of Marvel Now solo titles for female heroes, clearly as a diversity play, mixed quality. And then I guess if they didn't hit a certain goal, then they got killed
Mhm.
at the end of the year. So She-Hulk was one of those books. Admittedly, the writing was a little confusing. They didn't quite know how funny they wanted it to be. It didn't become as silly funny as Patsy Walker Hellcat. That was a very comical
Mhm.
title. But then it didn't quite go as deep legal as some of the Daredevil stuff I read,
Yes.
which is why I read She-Hulk, because I wanted legal superhero stuff similar to Daredevil. But the cover art was amazing, and I should find an image. But
Okay.
the cover art is super great, and I appreciate it. I think I tweeted about the author, the artist, and his work on Twitter, just because it's moi. It's like they're like fashion magazine covers for
So
She-Hulk.
while you're looking those up, Zeki says Bubblegum Crisis and Lotus War era. Yes. 5-star stories does fall under that category of being many of the older anime that was out there or manga. I've been also reading and
It's not.
yeah, it's not.
Oh
there.
my God, Labyrinth! Yeah, Labyrinth
So,
RPG.
Labyrinth, the movie, which starred David Bowie and why suddenly can't I remember her name?
I don't know with you.
Jennifer Connelly. Actually does have an official adventure game, which is / role playing game. You play inhabitants or visitors to the labyrinth, and you have 13 hours to get to the center of the labyrinth for reasons that you may choose to determine during the game. It's an interesting system. It uses 6-sided dice and has character sheets, and the book is beautifully written to give you all the ingredients you need for your own journey into the labyrinth. It's even designed that you can jump through the story with repeated sessions with the same group of players, with different players. You can take turns rotating who's in charge of the game, and it still works. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, I found the art. Look, this is what I shared on Twitter, and oh my God, this was a beautiful triptych across 3 issues, because it was a 3-issue Captain America story,
Mhm.
and this was in that weird Marvel Now period where Captain America was 90 years old and no longer a superhero, so he was just Steve Rogers. But oh my God, the composition, it was just very beautiful, stylish, and she ended up facing Matt Murdock in court. It's like that was I think it was the only real good story from this run, and then the others were just like okay. So sorry. But yeah, that was that title.
For Vampire 5th edition, because we have been running sessions of that as well,
We
I've
have
been
that game.
reading up the Chicago Folios and the manuscript for the Blood Gods book. The Blood Gods book introduces the Hecata, which is basically the new edition's attempt to gather all the necromantic clans from the vampire lines into one. So that's the Giovanni, the Cappadocians, the Samedi, and all the others. It also introduces ideas as to why the beckoning is happening and why certain clans are not affected by the beckoning. Whereas the Chicago Folios opens up all these possible plot stories and elements regarding the plot threads that were introduced in the Chicago by Night book. This includes the mentions of the Drowned, which if you've read the book, then you know about who I'm talking about. And it also introduces a certain vampire from a clan that supposedly no longer exists. And if you're a fan of the Week of Nightmares storyline, you know what clan that is.
Oh, I forgot. September is also the month that I finally read the latest Welcome to Night Vale novel, which is the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your home. She is one of my favorite characters from Welcome to Night Vale. And this book was not my cup of tea, and it was very frustrating.
Given that you love the world so much.
I love the world. I love
we
the
should have worn
character.
those shirts.
No, it's okay. I love the world. I love the character, but then her backstory was told in a very strange way, and I have generally enjoyed all of the Welcome to Night Vale original novels that have been released thus far. So this was like a weird misstep for me because most of the story takes place outside of Night Vale, and for anyone who's ever listened to the podcast, you'll know how weird that feels because it's given that everything is set in that universe,
Yes.
and people mysteriously cannot leave Night Vale.
And the town itself or the city itself is a character.
Yes.
It has its own personality. It has its own rules.
So to have her in the age of sail Britain sort of period, potentially becoming a pirate, it was very weird. I get it. I get what they wanted to achieve in the end. But then I feel like we didn't need to dedicate 3/4 of the book to that.
Mm-hmm. So quick greetings. Hi to Evie. I'll stick to your handle because that's the name you're using. Andre says Salubri will be remembered. Nope, it wasn't the Salubri. So I'll leave that at that, and I'll continue. I've also been reading Fall of Magic, which is it's an adventure role-playing game that typically when this is played, there's actually a literal scroll that you unfurl as you play the story. It has story prompts, and you build as to why a group of travelers in the company of a figure called the Magus are encountering the fall of magic in the events that are unfolding.
What the heck?
It's an interesting system. We don't have the actual scroll, but it is a game system I'm hoping to be able to run for the groups that are willing to try it someday. It's actually pretty interesting if you look at it online because the scroll is beautiful and it's very evocative the way it's been designed. Sadly, it's times like this when you have certain games that are so beautiful that you hate the fact that they're so hard to get.
Yerm says it's my clan. So, comment? Okay.
I'm not sure, Urim, which one you're talking about. Now,
that is true.
Now, if you're talking about the one that might have to do with the fact that this episode only lasts 30 minutes, then no, it's not that clan either.
Okay. I'm dipping back into like end of August is actually when I also so I haven't been listening to as many audiobooks as I used to because audiobooks are things I listen to normally when I'm walking around, and since I'm no longer walking to and from work, I barely get to move my audiobooks. But I just at the tail end of August, beginning of September, I finished the Audible original Sandman adaptation, and oh my god, it is beautiful. It is a wonderful, wonderful full dramatization of the first 3 volumes of the Sandman series. It is very well acted, perfectly captures the original atmosphere. They did not try to update the setting. It is still set in the same time period as the original books. It's gorgeous. It's amazing.
The familiarity of the voices does not distract from feeling who the characters are.
No. And actually, there is some obscurity because Morpheus there is actually James McAvoy, but it works, and it's weird because you keep. But to be fair, James McAvoy is quite the character actor. I mean, he's done very diverse roles, but his performance as Morpheus is great, and you can actually look at the comic along as a guide while you listen to it. It's that good and that detailed that they didn't really drop stuff from it. And then I just finished and I shifted to another audiobook after that, which was like Body of Proof, which is a forensic. It is basically there was this this missing person that was assumed to be a murder, and they convicted a guy, and in Scotland, and then they're trying to the podcast people are trying to figure out if the evidence really stacked up. And it was kind of ironic given how much Forensic Files we've been watching. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It doesn't really achieve anything at the end. The guy's still in prison because it's just a podcast investigation. But it does raise important questions. Zeki asking, where do you get the Sandman audiobook? Audible.com. It's an Audible original, so you can only get it on Audible. Super worth it. Super worth it. Yes. Toby.
I've been reading the complete Warren Ellis omnibus of the James Bond stories that he wrote. It's actually pretty good. It approaches Bond with a more realistic, gritty feel. So he's still the annoying. Um, he obviously just wants to do things his own way, but they nicely mesh it with more realism. So you see Bond killing people because it's the safe thing to do that moment, not like how he's idealized in some of the presentations.
Ironically, I've already bought most of the Ian Fleming James Bond novels on Kindle because whenever they're on sale, I'll buy them on sale. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. And the same thing, like I've in my head, I've mapped out that this October I'm going to finally read The Walking Dead because I already have like a gazillion issues of it. Also bought on in different comiXology sales, and I'm finally gonna read it this October because Halloween, whatever, yay thematic. So yeah, and I just have to finish this Star Trek Double Helix thing.
Mhm. There was a number of chapters that I went through of The Spy Who Came Back from the Cold. I was listening to that as an audiobook as well, but ever since the loss of actually having to go to work, or whether it's walking
Toby
to
would
work
listen while driving
or
so-
walking,
or walking also.
but
Yeah.
but with the loss of that, it seems so much harder now to find the focus on reading or listening to it.
It's because we're together all the time, and then if we're home, we're mostly gonna watch something
Yes.
together and not listen to our respective audiobooks.
But it's a Jean Le Carre book from the 1960s, and it talks about a spy who was so deep into his cover that it was starting to be harder to know which one is his cover and which one wasn't. So it's an interesting read. It was heavy in certain portions. I used to alternate that with listening / reading Creativity Incorporated, which was basically the Pixar story.
That book. I think I also have that on Kindle.
Which was all about how they had a creative brain trust and how they had to trust people to be very honest and open about their opinions in order to encourage managing and being, better. And it was quite a book. It was very empowering, very inspiring, and at times very frustrating when you realize that people don't really approach the world that way, and you really wish more people did. But yeah.
Ooh, from a book perspective also, my PDF Kickstarter preview of the Ships of the Expanse finally came in.
Mhm.
So this is in support of the Expanse RPG system. So
Which
it's basically
we
laid
should
out.
have an episode about soon.
Yeah, but I am not ready to play it, run it, but I will definitely love to talk about it. But the Ships of the Expanse supplement just gives you layouts of the ships. And it's and especially because of the hard sci-fi nature of the Expanse, ships are built vertically.
Yes.
So normally we're used to like ships on their side, and then it's the long horizontal. That's a deck.
All these long corridors.
Yes. So this one, because it's trying to build in a hard sci-fi accuracy of gravity from acceleration, then it's decks that are vertically stacked. So if it's the ship standing on its end, and oh my god, I'm so excited because then it gives you a lot more structure for plotting out an RPG scenario, and it will really give the players a sense of where everything is and how to move up and down decks and where everything is located. It's just the little details I super love, and I'm super into the Expanse because of the ship porn.
And then I guess the last one I could mention is I've been diving into the Miracle Man collections. Miracle Man was one of those superhero stories that has such a colorful past, and in many ways determines why there is certain rifts between certain comic creators and certain companies.
You know who we're talking about.
But it's an interesting read because it's got a lot of what you want to see if you like Silver Age narratives, but it also has a lot of modern sensibilities in the sense that it throws in what I dare say would be questionable narratives or topics for that time. And even now, at this point in time, it still has that, oh wow, they went there. But yeah, it's a good read if you can find yourself getting into it. But that would be almost akin to like diving back to the original Doctor Who episodes.
Quackers. So yeah, and that helps a lot. So this was a different episode format for today, and I know it's not a deep dive into any one subject. It's just a cattle call of like what we've been doing. And if this works, let us know. If it doesn't work, it's okay. We're always experimenting and seeing What's fun? Admittedly, this is another low prep episode, which is easy for us to do, especially we were just playing Ryutama earlier today, and we didn't have more time for in-depth preparation. But that's cool. That's okay.
But as always, that was 30 minutes where we had a lot of fun and we were able to share what we've been going through. We love being able to have these small opportunities to connect with you all there despite the lockdowns of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's the main reason for this show. It's like we're all just hanging out virtually. It's not as demanding as an actual Zoom or Google Hangouts call where everybody has to talk.
And I guess not as intimidating when there's a room and you feel like, am I allowed to join? Will they mind if I come in?
And we keep trying opening up Facebook Messenger rooms and barely anyone joins because everybody's like, really? Am I going in here? That's cool.
So yeah, that ends this episode and we had a lot of fun doing this and we hope you'll join us again next time.
Yeah, if you have questions or suggestions for future episodes or like if there are certain things that we mentioned that we're reading that you want to learn more about or have us feature in depth, let us know at this Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter, AltoVinoShade, RG Suniko.
You can also check out our blog, that's baduypride.com. You'll also see there easily all the other episodes that we've made so far as well as stuff about us.
Yeah, because I take the time to make a post every time. So, yay. Of course, continue the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what you're reading. Are you reading? And, there's any reading is good reading. Don't feel like you're not reading enough. Just read and enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe to notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride.
Thanks for watching.
Yay! Have a good evening. And